Okay, great. So my name is Maggie Abel. I'm the Senior Marketing and Engagement Manager for FSC US, and I am joined by my colleague Kate Leggett. Additionally, I'm very excited to welcome Jess Gillen from American Green Consulting Group to this webinar. She is a part of the technical working group for the standard revision, and we will be available to help answer your questions. First, a few notes on the agenda and housekeeping. We will start with an overview on the revision process, move into the structure of the standard, highlighting key changes in the revised version. We will touch on next steps and information on how to participate in the consultation, and then we will have plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. I would ask that you please hold all of your questions until the end of the presentation. If you have questions that come up during it, you can go ahead and use the chat function, or you can wait and then raise your hand and we can unmute you to ask your question at the end. The goal of this webinar is to highlight key changes to the trademark standard, provide you with an opportunity to ask any clarifying questions you may have, and then give you all the information you need on how to participate in the public consultation. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the revision process, taking a look at the goals, the scope, and the timeline. The revision process of FSC standards is a multi-stakeholder process done in order to update an existing normative standard. Some goals of updating the standard can include improving wording, responding to new market dynamics, simplifying and streamlining applicability, and ensuring compliance with legislative requirements, which is very relevant in our current world. For the trademark standard revision, the goals were to increase the use of the FSC marks by certificate holders to help consumers choose FSC certified products while maintaining the integrity and credibility of our system. The revision aims to accomplish this by focusing on adaptability, compliance, alignment, consistency, increased visibility, and credible claims. The scope of the revision is limited to the labeling rules and rules for promotions with the FSC trademarks, the promotional license holder guide, the requirements for labeling eligibility, the infringement policy, and various FSC tools like the Brand Hub and certification portal are out of scope for this revision. This slide shows a summary of the process timeline. You can see the revision process was started in September of 2023, with the conceptual phase ending in July of 2024. The drafting phase began in August of 2024, and we are currently in the middle of the second public consultation. Approval from the FSC Policy and Standards Committee is hopefully scheduled for October of this year. Okay, let's move into the structure of both the current and proposed standard. You can see the current structure of the trademark standard here. There are 10 sections broken up into 4 parts. Part 1 is the general requirements, which covers the ground rules and restrictions for using the trademarks. Part 2 covers using the FSC label on products, including selecting the label and the label requirements. Part 3 is all about promoting certified products and certification and consists of the promotional elements, promotional use requirements, and restrictions on promotional use. And finally, Part 4 contains the graphic rules for labeling and promotion, including the on-product label and logo, the Forest for All Forever marks, and misuse of the FSC trademarks. The proposed structure can be seen here. The parts have not changed, but you can see the sections have changed a bit. Part 1 now includes just the ground rules, but compliance with national legislation has been added. Part 2 stayed the same with the addition of the FSC QR label, which we will be getting into more shortly. Part 3 covers the promotional elements and use requirements still, but now has sections for promotion on social media and e-commerce marketplaces. And Part 4 has an added section of the QR label, and the restriction section now encompasses dual labeling, restrictions on promotional use, and misuse. Okay, let's get into some of the key changes within the standard. Again, this is meant to highlight these changes, give you an overview, but we highly recommend you take a look at the full proposed revisions to the standard, which is available on the consultation platform. Towards the end of this presentation, we will be showing you how you can access the consultation platform and access the proposed revised standard. So the scope and definition, there is improved wording and clarifications on the scope, and this standard focuses specifically on trademark use in the course of trade. So anything outside of the course of trade would not be in scope. This would refer to any use of the FSC trademarks that occurs beyond the usual commercial or business activities related to the sale of goods or services. So these non-commercial activities can include internal documents, internal presentations, and internal training. There are also updated definitions in the standard to better fit the new requirements, and redundant definitions have been removed. Okay, part one, the general requirements, starting with the ground rules. There have been a few updates made to the ground rules. First, the Forest for All Forever mark with the animals is being retired. Additionally, for the trademark registration symbol, the first or most prominent use of FSC and Forest Stewardship Council must now be followed by the TM registration mark when used as part of text. This is different for the US. Previously, the Circle R registration mark would have been used. For the FSC logo and Forest for All Forever marks, they must be downloaded from the new FSC brand hub, where the automatic registration symbol tool should be utilized. This will automatically select the correct trademark registration mark to use, meaning there's no more need for the long trademark registration list. Changes have also been made across the standard to ease the process of obtaining approvals and implementing a trademark use management system, which, if you are not familiar, this is a framework of procedures as described in Annex A of the standard, used by a certificate holder as an alternative to submitting trademark use to their respective certification body for approval. Okay, moving into part two, using the FSC label on products, starting with the FSC label. The biggest change when it comes to using the FSC label is that all of the elements now, except for the Mobius loop, are now mandatory. So this includes the product type, label text, and FSC website. Here you can see those elements in more detail. So you can see that the Mobius loop is marked as non-compulsory. However, the rest of the elements, including the FSC logo, the FSC website, the label title, product type, label text, and license code are all mandatory now. A few other changes when it comes to selecting the FSC label. The small and community producers labels has been removed. And if you attended our webinar last week, you will be familiar with the new FSC brand hub, which now replaces the trademark portal as the official platform for accessing the FSC trademarks, designs, and other assets. There are a couple new rules regarding product type. Certificate holders can use multiple product types on the label, and now an additional clarifying statement is required in the event that a product type is unclear, and you can see an example of this here. Okay, now let's get into the FSC QR label. This is perhaps one of the biggest proposed changes to the standard, and it is an introduction of the FSC QR label. This would be an alternative to the current label and would be used on product by certificate holders. FSC would be the first forestry certification scheme to develop such a label, and it would be a helpful tool in keeping compliance with ever-changing legislation. The QR label would operate exactly how you would expect. You would scan with your phone or another device, and then it would pull up more information. And here is a mock-up of what that information could look like. The full label information would be available when the QR code is scanned, and FSC would manage this information. Okay, moving into labeling requirements. To help reduce confusion, the new version of the standard clarifies the use of additional FSC trademarks on products. So, additional trademarks or references to FSC may be applied when an on product label is visible to the consumer. So, in this example, you can see there is a logo used on the front of the packaging of the toilet paper, and then the full label is visible on the back. So, that would be a correct use because you do have that full label visible to the consumer. The license code will need to be added to the additional trademark use if the label is on the packaging and the additional trademark use is on the product itself. Perhaps a better example than the one here that shows tissues is a pack of wooden pencils. So if a pack of wooden pencils has the full FSC label on the outer packaging, but each pencil has an additional FSC trademark on it, the pencil would also need to have the license code then, in addition to that trademark reference on the pencil itself. Regarding labeling agreements, the requirements are more streamlined, confirming that agreements between two or more certificate holders are allowed. And there is additional clarity on the role of certification bodies and the required documentation. The scenario that you see here is a relatively common one where you would have one certificate holder who is not necessarily manufacturing but wants the product to carry their license code. So they would enter into an agreement with their certified manufacturer to have them print their preferred license code on the product. Okay, diving into part 3, promoting FSC certified products and FSC certification, starting with the promotional elements. When you promote using the FSC trademarks, you must also include your license code and a promotional statement from Annex D at least once per material. This is the proposed change. So if it's on your sustainability page on your website, for example, which you can see a mock-up of something like that here, your license code and a promotional statement from Annex D would need to be included once. There are certain required elements that must be used when promoting with the promotional panel. The logo, web address, license code, and new panel text are all required. The panel text is to be chosen from the statements available in the brand hub, and there are various statements to choose from depending on your needs. Okay, now let's get into the promotional use requirements. There are now more rules around promotional items using the FSC trademarks. Any item created to promote that is not being sold in a business to consumer transaction that is a forest-based item now must be FSC certified. So this would include, but is not limited to, event giveaways, samples, merchandise, pencils, cups, notebooks, t-shirts, tote bags, etc. This requirement used to be exclusive to wood items, but now it encompasses all forest-based items. Okay, moving into promotion on e-commerce and social media. With the rise of e-commerce, this new section aims to provide guidance and clarity on how to use the FSC trademarks in marketplaces and e-commerce platforms. These clarifications include additional definitions, clear rules around what elements must be displayed, and previous exceptions, like the exception to use the trademark registration symbol, were considered in this. The revision process also incorporated the ever-changing world of social media. As with e-commerce, there are additional definitions, and previous exceptions were considered for this as well. Okay, diving right along into the last part, the graphic rules for labeling and promotion. The graphical requirements for the on-product label, promotional panel, and logos have improved flexibility when it comes to color. The size also has more streamlined requirements, and for the trademarks, there is increased flexibility around the clear space that is required while still keeping the labels and logos uncluttered and unobstructed. For the QR label, there is no strict requirement around color as long as there is sufficient contrast for scanning. There is a minimum size of 15 millimeters, and clear space shall be maintained around the QR label to ensure scannability. Additional promotional statements may be used to provide context to the QR label, like the example shown here. Moving on to restrictions. There are updated graphics to better reflect restrictions around incorrect uses of the FSC trademarks, and the restrictions that did not add value have been removed. There is also an additional restriction on the translation of the Forest for All Forever mark beyond what is available in the FSC Brand Hub. Another change is dual labeling with other forest certification schemes. This is now allowed as long as it does not disadvantage FSC in terms of size or placement, doesn't imply connection or association with FSC, and does not imply equivalence between FSC and other forest certification schemes. Okay, on to the last section here is the annexes. So Annex A is the trademark use management system, and this section has been updated by streamlining language to improve clarity. Multiple management representatives are now allowed, and there's added clarity on the training requirements with criteria for acceptable alternative training. Again, a trademark use management system is a framework of procedures used by a certificate holder as an alternative to submitting their trademark use to their certification body for approval. Okay, Annex B is the group and multi-site section. This has been updated again by streamlining the language and requirements so that there are clear responsibilities of group entities for managing the trademark use of members. One of those being group entities are now allowed to create promotional materials for their members. Annex C talks about project certification. The advice note for a trademark use on FSC project certification was incorporated into the new version of the standard, and the annex structure was simplified to indicate user groups, elements for promoting FSC project certification, and the respective restrictions. There are also streamlined requirements to define conditions for project certificate holders to promote their FSC certified projects, both during and after completion of the project, and there's ongoing alignment with the FSC chain of custody team. As referenced in this presentation, Annex D has been updated to ensure all statements are substantiated, correct, and verified by FSC. Additional statements may be found on the Brand Hub, and those statements are meant to be used as provided, taking some of the guesswork out of selecting your language. Organizations can also request additional promotional statements to be added to the Brand Hub. And Kate, if you click one more time, we'll get an example of one of those statements. Okay, so that is an overview of the major changes. As I mentioned, it was meant to be a high-level look at some of those key changes in the standard. It was not meant to replace actually taking a look at the standard yourself. So we do recommend that you do that after this webinar. But moving on to next steps. You can see an overview of the timeline here. We are currently in the public consultation phase, working towards approval in October with a publication date hopefully in January of 2026 and an effective date in July of 2026. The transition period is yet to be defined, so this consultation is a great time to share your thoughts on what you think that transition period should look like. Okay, we Now to get into the consultation platform itself, we encourage all certificate holders and promotional license holders to participate in the public consultation. This is your opportunity to provide your feedback on the proposed changes to the standard, and it's a crucial part of the FSC system. To be clear, all of the changes that we've shown are just proposed. None of this is set in stone yet. The technical working group worked really hard to come up with these proposed changes, but now it is your opportunity to share your thoughts. And it's really important that you share any major concerns you may see with these changes. Again, this is your best opportunity to make your voice heard in this process. This does impact promotional license holders as well, even though this is not a standard that promotional license holders adhere to. Their certified suppliers adhere to it. It impacts labeling and more. So it's important for promotional license holders to be aware and participate in this consultation as well. So to participate, you can go to consultationplatform.fsc.org and create an account if you don't already have one. There are a few important things to note with this platform. Those of you who have participated in a consultation before are probably familiar with some of the quirks of the platform. Those who have not, this is going to be new to you. As I mentioned, you do need to create an account, so registration is required. You can change your responses in the consultation platform up until the consultation closes, and your responses will be shared with you via email the first time you submit a response. Responses are not required for every question. There's 56 questions in this consultation, and you do not have to answer every one if you don't want to. One thing to note with the formatting is any text formatting will be stripped, including line breaks, if you copy and paste into the consultation platform. So if you are working on your responses in a separate document and copy and paste it in, you will lose all formatting. So you may want to utilize, dashes or things like that to kind of help break up your text for you to take a look and have it be a little bit clearer as you're working in the consultation platform. Responses may be lost if you are inactive for a period of time, i.e. not clicking any buttons on the consultation platform. So if you have it open and you're working on it and then go and leave and do something else and you leave it open for a while and you haven't pressed any buttons, you risk losing your work. So we recommend you save often. There is an option to save as you're working through it. So make sure that you are saving often to keep your work from disappearing. We also do recommend that you copy the text of your responses that took a while to prepare before you move on. So that can be done as I just described, where you can have the consultation open on one screen and be working on a separate Word document, typing your responses, and then you can copy and paste into the consultation platform. Alternatively, you could do it the other way, where if you want to work directly in the platform and then copy and paste your responses out to a separate document, we just recommend you do that for any of these responses that you've taken some time on so that you do not risk losing your work. The last question, number 56, is an open space to put your other comments. As I mentioned, the responses are not required for every question. So if you prefer to just skip straight to question 56, put all of your general comments in there and submit, that is always an option for you. The consultation closes at midnight or 11:59:59 on June 6th, Central European Summer Time. So note that that is 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on June 6th. So do not wait until midnight US time on June 6th to submit your consultation comments. The consultation will be closed at that point. So I recommend even submitting a couple days early just to avoid getting mixed up with any time zones. If you have never participated in an FSC consultation before and have more questions as you're going through this, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I will have our contact information listed at the end of this presentation. We're more than happy to answer your questions and help walk you through the platform. Here is a helpful summary of the key changes that we discussed and the corresponding question number in the consultation. Jess was kind enough to provide this, so you can take a screenshot if you want. However, we can make this available after the webinar as well. So if you want to go straight to the comments that are related to those key changes we discussed, this can help guide you through that. And with that, I can open it up for questions. So I've been seeing a few things coming through the chat, and I think Jess has been responding to a few of them. So let me just take a quick look and see if there's any that should be answered live. And of course, if you would like to ask your question live, you should be able to unmute yourself. So go ahead. Otherwise, you can raise your hand and we'd be happy to unmute you.
This is Judge James from Topan Merrill. When will you said that the new version of this will come out in January and be fully implemented hopefully by in June, July? Will
No.
the will
Go
the
ahead.
actual document number change? I mean, are you going to go to V2-2 or something completely different or what?
Great question. So just to clarify, the publication date, yep, is supposed to be in January, and then the effective date would be July 1 is what we're shooting for. And then of course there would be a transition period, again, yet to be defined, but there would be a period of time where you would be transitioning after that. I might pass it to Jess on the version number. I'm not sure if she has an answer. If not, we can definitely follow back up with that one.
And I guess an additional is when will we have to have training done to be in compliance with the new guidelines? I mean, would that fall after January? Because I would assume then that other than going to the site that you mentioned to view it now, would it be available in another portion to look at so we could do some preliminary training too, or do we wait until the thing's officially launched in the go live date?
Mhm. I'll give a quick answer and then Jess can chime in if I miss anything. So I would at this point, these are all proposed changes. So none of this is set in stone. So none of this is going to be available on the brand hub yet. So I would say waiting until when it is published in January is going to be where you're going to get then the most accurate information for this. And then you would
Okay.
have between January and July for the effective date. And then my understanding, again, Jess, please correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding then is that transition period will be the time that you have to transition everything over to meet these new requirements.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Did
Thank
I miss
you.
anything, Jess? I see you nodding. Okay, and then Jess, do you know anything about the version number? Is that going to be a
It's showing 3.3-0
okay?
on the
3
file.
0. So V 3-0.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, I'm just taking a look at the chat here. Okay, so Rebecca, I think we answered your questions on when the rules will take effect, but if you have another clarification, please let us know. Looks like we have a question around, will we be able to use all pre-existing printed labels with the current FSC logo before transitioning to any labels with the new logo requirements? That is a great question, and I believe that would be what is going to be discussed in the transition period. That is to be defined, what the specific requirements around that would be. Jess, if anything to add, feel free.
They're typically, in the past, it has been allowed that anything that's already been printed or manufactured and labeled can still be used until stock runs out. So I expect that will be the same, but it would be great if everyone added that in the consultation.
Mhm. And then we had a couple questions on recording and sharing the PowerPoint. Absolutely, this is recording, and we will make sure that this is shared out. Just for your general information, all of our recorded webinars across the board are available on our FSC US YouTube channel. So you can head there, and I will do my best to get this up probably by the end of the day today, and then we'll get an email sent out with the link to everybody shortly as well. Okay, let's see. Okay, I had another question on pre-printed materials, and I think that was answered. Yes, we can definitely. Kate, could you go back a slide to the overview of the key changes and the questions? Again, we can definitely provide this PowerPoint as a follow-up as well for you to reference, but if you do want to take a quick screenshot of this, it is a helpful guide. Okay, and then I think if I'm understanding the latest question from Elsie, about does the standard corroborate the statement regarding using pre-printed labels before having to change over? Yes, okay, perfect. Yep, wonderful. Okay, so I think those were all the questions in the chat. Again, any questions, feel free to continue submitting them. Raise your hand, unmute yourself, jump in. We have plenty of time left in this webinar, so if you have questions, and then if we have some time left, I can also give you guys a quick look at the consultation platform just to show you what it looks like for those who have not ever participated. We can do that as well.
Hi, Maggie. This is Justin Baum with Green Bay Packaging. Just a quick question on the logo use. The only place that we use it right now is on our website.
Mhm.
So moving forward, when this takes effect, is it something I'm just going to have to, relabel that with the new logo on our website, and that should be good, or?
Yeah, so if you use it on your website, you would just need to make sure that, yes, the new, if you're using the promotional panel, that it reflects the new requirements around the promotional panel and all of those required elements. But yep, if it's just being used on the website, I don't anticipate a lot of changes that you would need to make.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. I'm seeing some questions coming through in the chat, but Elsie, I see you have your hand raised, so go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, thanks. Just one more follow-up. Jess is gonna laugh because we've been pestering Jess for a long time about labels. If I'm just understanding this correctly, there isn't currently a timeline that's standardized for how long we have to switch over labels that have been pre-printed, and there's going to be, or is it that it will continue what it's been in the past, which is to say we have as long as we need to use up what we do have, and then as long as we switch to the new logo on new labels, we're okay.
Elsie, you have a bit of a unique situation. So I'll bring that up when I have the next meeting with the trademark working group to ensure
Great.
we incorporate those exceptions, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, no probs. Thanks.
Wonderful. And then I think we've got one question yet to be answered in the chat around the rationale for allowing more than one on-product label, meaning FSC plus another forest certification label. This is a huge change from FSC's past approach. Jess, could you perhaps provide some clarity from those conversations?
Yeah, are you able to jump back to the slide that covered this?
Yes, absolutely.
I believe the example was banned.
Yep. It should be slide 42, I think, Kate.
Mm.
Is this the one you're thinking of, Jess?
Oh, this is the one. No, I read the question wrong.
Yeah, so I think the question, and Rebecca, feel free to jump in if I'm misunderstanding, is around allowing two for certification labels on a product, one being FSC, as this is not something that we've allowed in the past and is quite a shift from the previous rules.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, this was just FSC wanting to make it easier on certificate holders to use the marks, less prohibitive, so that the logo is out there more. That's all it was.
Great.
Would you be required to do that? To have multiple labels? I mean, from the printing industry, would not see that as a general requirement. But why would you have multiple for? Because of the material that's being produced? I mean, multiple product streams coming together, or?
That could be it. Well, I'll have to apologize because I don't remember the details of our discussions in our meetings a few months ago.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I'm wondering too, Jess, correct me if this is not a good example of this, but I know sometimes, like for example, you could have an outer packaging piece that is certified by one scheme, and then the product inside is certified by another, and then you could put both of those labels on the outer packaging, whereas previously you would not have been able to have both labels on the outer packaging. So that's perhaps an example that maybe showcases why that would be. But there's, as far as I know, there shouldn't, labeling is in general is not a requirement. So I can't imagine that there would ever be a requirement, even if you did have two certifications, you would not have to label both. But you just have the option in this proposed version. And okay, I think those are all the questions in the chat. Michelle, I hear you on the translations. And yeah, the Brand Hub, as Jess said, should have all of the translations available right now. If you go in there, obviously these statements are not up there yet, but the translations for like the labels and things like that are in there. And there is so many languages that you could need. So I hope that there is not a language that is not in there at this point, but it should be pretty easy to translate these things.
Oh, when you have a region, hi, Michelle from Sonos. When you have a region that you're putting, this mark on for, let's say, 5 different countries, is the requirement to say we're going to have all of those languages on there, which grows that label tremendously. Like, I'm not clear on. It's a single language that you're showing, but I would love to see applications of 6 languages or 8 languages, because these go to multiple regions in the world.
That's a great question. And Jess, correct me if I'm incorrect with this, but my understanding with the language requirements, that actually comes down to legal requirements for the languages that need to be. So like in Canada, for example, it needs to be in French and English.
Correct.
So if you so that would be something that is not, it's not an FSC requirement, the number of languages that you're translating into. It would be just depending on what countries you're working or you're just distributing in, on what those translations would be. I believe right now for the labels, I think you can select up to 4 languages in the Brand Hub. I honestly have not ever seen an example where there's needed to be more than that. But yeah, as of now, I think it's up to 4 that you can select that will automatically translate and appear on that label.
Okay, and there's going to be minimum size requirements as well. I think you mentioned that for the QR code, but is that going to be included in the guidelines?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Size requirement will be included in those guidelines. And again, there's a lot of information in this standard that we kind of briefly went over here, but all of the specifics are in that standard. And that's actually maybe a good segue for me to show you how you can access that. Hold on, let me get the right screen up. Just for those who have not participated in one of these before, I can show you what that's going to look like. Okay, Kate, let's see if it lets me steal this from you. Oh, you gave it up willingly. Thank you.
You're welcome. Peaceful transition power.
Yeah. Okay. I hope you are all seeing the consultation platform. Would someone give me okay, I see some nodding. Okay, great. So this is what it will look like when you head to the consultation platform. You will be prompted to log in or create an account if you don't have one. And then you can see there's the one consultation in Spanish and English. So then you would click participate. Oh, then it'll ask you to log in. Okay, and then when you do that, this is where you're going to find those supporting documents. So here you can see, oh, and this is what Jess referenced, perfect. So you can see the current standard in English, the draft proposed standard in English, and then both in Spanish as well. And then when you click participate now, so you can click those links and they'll download the documents. It brings up the document for review and your feedback, and the sections can be found here. So the introduction is giving you a little bit of background information as to why it's being revised, who it's for, all of that information. And then moving through, participant information, it asks for your, information on who you are. Again, this is all not required. So you don't have to fill out all of this if you don't have to. The more information you fill out, the better. But again, we know everyone is busy. And then again, it goes through the sections that we kind of went over the main changes. So you can see here is going to be the document that you're taking a look at. And then they'll have some specific questions there. Again, going through all of the different elements that we went over. And then here is that last question, 56, where you can put in any comments that are just general. Again, if you want to skip right to here, you can do that and paste in here. And then making sure that you're saving by going down here, saving current progress. You can save progress and exit, but yes, definitely make sure to be saving as you're going through this, because you do not want to spend a lot of time on this and then have it disappear. So that is a quick overview of that. Okay, let's see. Let me pull up the chat again. Okay, looks like some questions are being answered. Give it maybe another minute or two if anyone has any last minute questions. Kate, would you mind pulling up the presentation again and then going to, got just a couple more slides for you. We are not seeing your screen, Kate, so I don't know if... There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So I'm not seeing any other questions coming through or any hands raised. If you do have questions that come up as you're working through this, again, please let us know. But before I let you go, I did just want to quickly plug an exciting event we have coming up, FSC US's annual conference, Stewardship in Action 2025, will be taking place this September in St. Louis, Missouri. More information will be coming later this month, so make sure to mark your calendars and be on the lookout for registration information for this meeting. And then if you can go to the last slide, Kate, we've got our contact information up here. Kate and myself, and then Jenna on our team was not able to join this webinar, but she is a great contact. She's our technical expert for chain of custody and EUDR. So if you have questions regarding either of those items, she is a great person to reach out to. So with that, I thank you very much for your time. I want to say a huge thank you to Jess for joining us and providing her expertise on the technical working group and all of the hard work that they've done for this proposed revision. Again, if you have questions as you're going through this on the platform, on the new revised changes, please let us know. We're happy to walk you through this. And again, I just can't say how much we appreciate your time and your effort in responding to this consultation. It is a key part of how FSC runs and is very important for you to share your thoughts. This is going to be your best opportunity to get your voice heard when it comes to this standard. So really, really encourage you to spend some time working through this. Okay, with that, I thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.